Actually, what's funny about this question is that I'm actually writing a book at the moment, and one of my chapters actually is just about community, right, and the importance of community and having that and engaging with that. If you're going through a divorce or a separation, and I would argue that they're slightly different, partly because of the legal aspects, but the mental trauma can certainly still be the same, depending on, of course, how long you've been with the person. But if you're going through something like a divorce, then to have a community around you can be key to survival. And not just survival, but actually thriving, re-establishing your identity, and feeling that you have a support system and a sense of value by contributing to, again, a wider group of people. I just think that many people misunderstand the functions of community and the benefits of community. And so for me, it was one of the first things that I discovered to be just an amazing experience, and again, key to moving forward, thriving, if you like, in the middle of what felt like a traumatic time. And so to engage with community, I think, is really important. Now, what does that really look like? It can be different for everyone. It could be different for anyone. I think that you have to, in many senses, find your community. Now, I will start with the fact that you probably are already a part of a community or several communities. And so, the first thing to do would be to kind of lean into that by recommitting to those communities, reinvesting your time, reaching out to people, attending if that's the case. But again, the things that you're already involved with, I would argue, that are a really good starting place for rebuilding, this thing that we call community. If you're not currently involved in a community, then I would say that the first thing to do is just to consider things that you like and enjoy. You probably want to find something like a hobby to start off with. And if it's not a hobby, then something like the gym or a sports group, a dance group, a cooking club, somebody who enjoys the same things as you, essentially, eventually form your community. And I think to find those places, those safe places where you find and feel a sense of belonging, are really, really important, particularly when you are going through something like a divorce, when perhaps your identity is being challenged. Who am I now? And so to reestablish that within a safe space around ideally good people is a really healthy way to keep yourself balanced and to move forward. Now, there are more benefits than just that. Mental wellness and health alone are huge benefits of being in part of a community. Accountability. Something about going through your own trauma sometimes leaves you kind of putting your head down and making it all about me, what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing. And that's important. And obviously we need to acknowledge that. But by actually investing in a community, you find that other people are also going through some things, and the world is still ticking. And what that does is it kind of realigns you to look slightly outside yourself. And it's grounding. It can really be grounding, because when it's all me, and the things I'm suffering, the things I'm going through, this can be really heavy on the mind. And it can, over time, I think, cause anxiety. So to just acknowledge that other people are also experiencing pain, other people are also going through some difficult times. And again, I don't think it's about comparing. I actually think comparison is the root of envy. So I don't think it's a healthy thing to start comparing your circumstances to someone else's. But I think just to have an understanding that someone else is going through things, people are going through stuff. It's not just you. You're not alone. Part of what I'm trying to do with Messy Men, the community, is just remind men, and not just men, but I feel like it is about reminding men that they're not alone when they go through this. You know, society, particularly in the UK, is slightly more favoured towards supporting women. And even if that's a case of having to seek it out, there's just slightly more things you can seek out as a woman in terms of support, as a single parent, going through divorce, things like this. Whereas for men, it's not something that's really freely offered. It takes quite a lot to find that. And so what I'm trying to do with Messy Men is just provide a safe space where we can essentially encourage men who are going through this process, potentially single fathers as well, who have to look after children and navigate the legal system, and just provide them with a community. Essentially, some of the questions that we're asked and some of the people that I speak to in particular, they do for the most part think that they're going through this all by themselves, and that might be true, but when you look up, when you embrace community, you're able to see that actually I'm not alone. There are people not only going through this, but people that have been through this who may be able to help me deal with, you know, my current circumstances. So I think that that's, you know, I'd say that that's massively important. I'd also say that community provides a sense of accountability and motivation. So if you are dealing with, again, the trauma of perhaps losing a partner or a relationship breakdown, then having people to just open up to about that can be really, really helpful. And for your mind's sake, it's really good. They say a problem shared is a problem halved, right? And so I totally agree with that statement. I would argue that you need to be a little bit careful about who you're telling your deepest truths to. But I think, again, if you can find a community, a safe space to do that in, it becomes a really healthy way for you to start processing some of your feelings. Even if it's just a friend who has something to respond to one of your stories with, some of those moments of feedback can be really, really useful. And someone else's perspective on your situation as well can be really, really useful. So it helps you with a broader sense of being accountable. And it also, again, sort of, I would say, motivates you to continue to reinvest in those relationships, reinvest in those communities where you are finding yourself being supported. Now, again, for anyone, a community can be a bunch of different things. Where I would start, if you're not currently part of one, and I'm sure that we all are, but if you feel like, and again, this might be a really good time to start a new community, then I would start with something that you enjoy doing, and start with that something that you could engage in at least once, if not twice a week. And again, what this is building frequency with meeting people, the same people, over and over and over. That essentially is what it is to build community. When I walk down to my local shops, I'm able to say hi to the man behind the counter, and we can have a quick conversation because we're building rapport. And I think what a lot of people think about too soon is, how do I build rapport immediately? Now, there are techniques for that, right? But in terms of building it naturally and organically and having a real sense of belonging, it really can just start with something simple like, you know, how are you? Now, how are you is an interesting one because it's probably one of the most common things that you say to someone with, hey, how are you? And hey, I'm fine. You know, we keep it moving. But if you really want to engage and you really want to start to break out of the norms, then the next time someone, you know, says, hey, how are you? And they respond, I'm fine. You just stop them and say, no, how are you really? How are you really? You'd be surprised at how that changes things, like totally changes the game in terms of building rapport with people and actually establishing natural, organic relationships with people. So the community is massive. It's highly, highly, highly important in terms of, again, maybe re-establishing your identity if that's necessary, or just reconfirming your identity. But I would say that it's really important that you start with something that you enjoy. Outside of that, it could be something that, you know, teaches you a discipline, and there are others who will be part of that community because they have the same eagerness to learn what it is that you want to learn. And that can, again, form bonds. That's how I know my friends from university. We all had a willingness and an eagerness to learn, music. And when we met there, having gone for that, we established a new relationship based on other things and mutual interests. And again, this is really where we build a good foundation from in terms of the next steps, the next place you're going in life. It starts from the communities that you involve yourself in. So I would get involved today. You don't have to start off with any big approaches or anything like that. Just start off with something that you would like to do, something that you would like to engage in frequently, like I said, once, twice a week, and something that you can commit to that engagement, maybe 2-3 months to start, right? If it's something that you really enjoy, then it probably won't be the end. But I just recommend it being the starting point. And I say that because there are no immediate results. We often look for immediate results when it comes to anything, everything, right? And you're not just going to go meet your next partner or your next best friend, or, you're not going to go meet that person necessarily tomorrow. But by just involving yourself and just becoming a part of new people's lives, you'd be surprised at the things that can open up and change. And the last thing I'd say about that is it's kind of like community has this aspect of 6 degrees of separation, if you like, if I can put it like that, which really means that sometimes you meet people who will introduce you to new people. Right? So it's not going there with the aspect that the aim that I'm going to meet my group, my support, not necessarily. Ideally, yes, but it might just be a case of you meet someone and a month after your first hello to that person, they're now just introducing you or inviting you somewhere where you can be even more sociable, perhaps join another community, and again, find some more support in moving forward and moving on and upwards. What I want to just kind of conclude with is that this is really about putting you back on your feet. It's about refinding your strength, re-understanding your identity and your value. I think a lot of people that go through this lose that, right? And it's understandable, but it's almost like if you handle this part correctly, you really can set up your life for so much better, so much more than you were experiencing. It's just a case of being mindful and keeping it in check and, growth, essentially.